More changes are coming to the 2021 schedule. NASCAR hits Hendrick Motorsports with a hefty penalty, and Erik Jones might be teasing where he's ending up next year. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. I hope you all have had a very good week. We've got a lot to catch up on here in today's episode, so I'm not going to waste too much time. We're going to talk about an Adam Stern report that has Homestead Miami Speedway moving dates once again. We're going to talk about the penalty NASCAR just gave Hendrick Motorsports, and we're going to talk a little bit about silly season rumors because Erik Jones is trying to stir the pot a little bit on social media. We'll talk about that at the end of this episode, but to start with, let's talk about some good news. Fans will be allowed to attend the Charlotte Roval race next month. I know it's just a few short weeks away at this point, but now it's been confirmed Charlotte Motor Speedway will allow roughly 5,000 to 5,500 fans both Saturday and Sunday for their upcoming October NASCAR race weekend. The governor of North Carolina has now said that it is okay for outdoor sporting venues to allow roughly 7% capacity, which is why the 5,000 number for Charlotte. Now I mentioned they're going to allow 5,000 fans Saturday and 5,000 fans Sunday. Of course, the Xfinity Series race is Saturday. Sunday's race is not going to be selling any more tickets, and that is per Bob Pockris at Fox Sports, but there are still tickets apparently available for the IMSA and Xfinity Series doubleheader Saturday. So if you're in the area, take advantage of that. That sounds like a pretty cool deal. But now if we look at the remainder of the 2020 schedule, we already know Las Vegas this weekend is not going to allow fans to attend. Talladega is expected to have some number of attendance. Charlotte Roval, we now know 5,000 something fans will be allowed. For Kansas, they've already announced 10,000 fans will be allowed at that race. Texas is expected to allow fans. Martinsville, still no word as to what Martinsville Speedway's plan is going to be. But then Phoenix, the championship, we know they're going to allow up to 8,000 fans every single day that weekend for the NASCAR championship. So right now, outside of Vegas, the final 5-6 races of the year, the only one that's really in question at this point is Martinsville. But every other track is, at least at this point, expected to have some number of fans in attendance. So that's pretty cool to see, as long as it can be done safely, of course. Another cool bit of news yesterday, Ryan Vargas, part-time Xfinity Series driver and friend of the show, announced a 6-race sponsorship deal with TikTok, the popular social media app. They're going to sponsor his JD Motorsports Xfinity car for the remainder of the 2020 season. Regardless of what you may think of TikTok, it is a big name. It is a big eye-catching brand, and it's a very eye-catching paint scheme that they debuted yesterday. So that's exciting, not only for Ryan Vargas, but also for NASCAR. Of course, Vargas, he's a California driver. He was a part of the NASCAR Next program. The last couple of years, he's been scrapping together sponsorship. He's run a part-time Xfinity schedule the last 2 years. He's run 3 races this year for JD Motorsports, and he finished 13th at Pocono earlier this summer. I definitely respect Ryan Vargas's determination and hard work. He's often, part of the pit crew for JD Motorsports when he's not driving the car, so any chance he can get to be at the racetrack, to be a part of the team, he takes advantage of it. So a lot of respect to Ryan Vargas, and I'm excited for him. This is a great opportunity, and maybe it'll lead to something better in 2021. Hopefully he can get some great results the rest of the season. All right, let's talk about a report from earlier today, actually. Adam Stern from Sports Business Journal tweeted, Homestead Miami will move to the second slot of the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series schedule per sources. Homestead is expected to market the move as a way for fans already attending the Daytona 500 to extend their stay in Florida for another week. Wow, this is now the 3rd straight year that the Homestead Miami race date is going to be moved dramatically. Of course, for years it was the November finale. This year it was moved to May, and now they're moving it, I guess, to February. Right now we know the Daytona 500 is currently scheduled for February 14th. I would assume that means Miami is going to be scheduled for February 20th or 21st, the very next weekend. But another big move for Homestead Miami Speedway. Of course, this year in 2020, Las Vegas was the second race of the season. While it sounds like Homestead Miami Speedway and NASCAR are trying to build this as, hey, hang out in Florida for a full week. You got Daytona, you got Homestead, start the NASCAR season off great. I think that marketing push was likely a factor in this decision, but I think more than anything, moving Homestead Miami Speedway to the second race of the season has more to do with the fact that NASCAR is more confident that its tracks in Florida will be allowed to host fans at the beginning of next year. As opposed to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, which isn't allowed to have fans this weekend, it's unclear how much longer it's going to be until a place like Las Vegas is going to be allowed to have any sort of significant crowd at one of its races. So I think this move is really NASCAR going with the sure bet. More than likely, their 2 Florida tracks are going to be allowed to have fans in attendance at the beginning of February. Of course, that's still a long way away. Things can change, but I think if I had to guess, I mean, both Daytona races this summer had fans in attendance. I think even Homestead, which was actually in June this year because of the pandemic, not May, but even Homestead in June, didn't they have like 1,000 fans at that race in June? So Florida has been allowing fans to attend NASCAR races for several months. Las Vegas, even this week, is not allowing fans to attend races. So I think that has more to do with this move than anything. NASCAR moving Homestead Miami up to the second race of the season more than likely means that race will have fans in attendance, whereas Vegas, it was still very unclear. That's what I think is really driving this decision. But sure, maybe you're going to be able to convince fans to stay in Florida for a week. I mean, it's February. I guess the beaches start to get crowded maybe in February. I mean, it's still pretty chilly, even Florida, but I don't really know if you're going to be able to convince that many NASCAR fans to stick around a full week. I mean, Homestead Miami Speedway is like 4 hours or so away from Daytona. It's not like they're right next to each other or anything. So, I mean, it could be a great move for locals, though. Daytona 500 will be in all the headlines, so fans in the Florida area will be like, oh, there's a race in Miami next week. Let's go there. So, it could be great. I think not a bad move, but I think the reason for the move is more political, perhaps, more than anything else. But there you have it. Homestead Miami Speedway will be the second race of the 2021 season. The pieces are slowly falling into place. In regards to the 2021 schedule, still no word when NASCAR is going to officially announce a significant portion of next year's schedule. I think a lot of it is them waiting to see what tracks are going to allow fans, where things are going to be in a few months. It's really hard to look that far ahead into the future right now. So I think NASCAR is putting things off as long as they possibly can before coming to a definitive conclusion as far as next year's schedule is concerned. But we'll just have to wait and see. Exciting. Florida to start the year. How about that? All right, now let's talk about some big news from yesterday. Hendrick Motorsports, out of nowhere, got slapped with a $100,000 fine for exceeding their allotted wind tunnel time. And now they actually, as part of this penalty, lost 10 hours of wind tunnel time for next year as well. So definitely a substantial penalty. Here was part of NASCAR's report on the infraction. According to the NASCAR rulebook, organizations are allocated 150 testing hours to be used on Gen 6 vehicles through December 31st, 2021, with a maximum usage of 70 hours in 2020 and a maximum usage of 90 hours in 2021. NASCAR officials said the overage for Hendrick was less than an hour, and the team self-reported the violation. Hey, at least Hendrick Motorsports reported on themselves. I mean, at least they get some points for honesty, right? Actually, that's probably what they were thinking. They were probably thinking by self-reporting they were going to get a slightly lesser penalty than if NASCAR had found it out themselves. Anyway, but this is something that hasn't really been talked about this year, but I believe at the start of 2020, NASCAR changed the rules, changed the procedures around wind tunnel testing. For the longest time, wind tunnel testing was unlimited. Teams could test in wind tunnels as much as they wanted. And I know some teams, like Stewart Haas, I believe, owns a wind tunnel. Penske owns one, I'm pretty sure. I think Hendrick has their own, but I'm not actually sure about that. My point is there's only a few, so I know a lot of teams have to rent wind tunnels from other teams sometimes. But only recently did NASCAR put this limit as far as the number of hours you can test in the wind tunnel each year. This, of course, was put into place as sort of a cost-saving measure. The idea is now the big teams aren't going to just continue to spend gobs of money to try and outdo each other in the wind tunnel. Of course, many of those teams have likely spent that money elsewhere, so I don't know that it's necessarily saved the teams a whole lot of money, but it was put in place at least for that effect. But this is the first we've heard of any team breaking this rule. It's interesting how NASCAR even officiates this. How does NASCAR even enforce this rule? I mean, what's stopping, like I mentioned, like Penske from just running their wind tunnel without anybody knowing about it? I mean, if they own it, if it's on their property, who's to stop them? How's NASCAR ever going to find out? And from what I can tell, I guess the answer is NASCAR may not find out if teams are doing this. But from what I do know, a wind tunnel test is a pretty big production. There are a lot of people involved. I mean, these wind tunnels are huge. It's literally, a giant jet turbine engine or something? I mean, it sounds like a pretty intense operation. So I guess the idea is if someone leaks the information to the public, if someone who was at the test accidentally lets people know that there was a test and it gets to the wrong hands, I'm sure then that $100,000 penalty that Hendrick just got would likely double or triple. Technically, this Hendrick penalty was an L2 level penalty. I think the max on those penalties is a $200,000 fine. So Hendrick definitely got off easy, probably by self-reporting, and because it sounds like the infraction was they were only a few minutes or maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes over their limit. It's not like they tested in a whole extra day or something. But anyway, as far as this affects Hendrick Motorsports, it sounds like they're going to lose some of their testing time for next year. But again, next year they're still only testing the Gen 6 car, which of course is going to be obsolete at the end of 2021 anyways. So while this might affect Hendrick Motorsports' performance next season, I don't think this is going to have a huge effect on 2022 when the next gen car is introduced and everyone's kind of starting from scratch. I don't think this is going to affect Hendrick Motorsports too heavily in that department, but it might be a little more of a struggle for them next year. They might have some catching up to do at the start of 2021, but we'll see. Anyway, big penalty report right there. Last thing I want to talk about in this episode is a little bit of silly season, and I'll say speculation. This is not news. I don't want you guys to think I'm coming at you with hard evidence to suggest where a certain driver is going. This is just speculation, but that's what makes silly season kind of fun sometimes. So Erik Jones was informed by Joe Gibbs Racing a little over a month ago, I think at this point, that he would not be returning to the 20 car next year. Christopher Bell will drive the 20 instead. Since then, Erik Jones has been rumored to the 48. He was kind of a hot rumor there for a while. That seems to have cooled down. It's really not clear where Erik Jones is going to land at this point, if he's even going to stay in the NASCAR Cup Series. You know, a couple weeks back, he told the media that Joey Logano actually reached out to him because Joey Logano also was let go by JGR at the end of the 2012 season, and it was in a very similar situation to where Erik Jones is at now. I already did a whole video on that discussion, but I think it's safe to say, at least as far as a few weeks ago, Erik Jones did not have a 2021 plan in place. Something might have happened in between now and then, but it hasn't been reported. But yesterday, Erik Jones jumped on the recent social media trend of kind of teasing possible future plans. I don't really know where this started. I feel like the highest profile example of this was Noah Gragson a few weeks back tweeting the pen emoji and then doing the Instagram live at like 1 a.m, dropping all these hints that some big announcement was coming. It turned out he had just signed an extension with Junior Motorsports. Still a great deal and a big moment for him. But now Erik Jones might be trying to piggyback off of some of that buzz. Erik Jones yesterday tweeted, and he also put this on his Instagram, a photo of him and I would guess his dad in one of his old race cars. You can see him as a little kid. And he tweeted, "Flames seem to be a trend on my cars," with one of those thinking emojis, you know, one of those types of with the hashtag Throwback Thursday as well. First off, that's a really cool looking car. I like that a lot. Of course, this led many fans to start speculating as to what Erik Jones might mean. What is the deeper meaning, if any, of this tweet? Of course, some fans were quick to point out that Hendrick Motorsports is very well known for the flame scheme that Jeff Gordon made famous, that William Byron continues to run to this day, with Axalta as a big sponsor of Hendrick Motorsports. Perhaps the Erik Jones to the 48 rumors have turned out to be true. Maybe Jones is heading to Hendrick Motorsports next year. Perhaps Axalta is stepping up their sponsorship and is going to be on Erik Jones's car for a large portion of the season. Maybe that's what Erik Jones is subtly hinting at. Hey, you never know. A few other folks in the replies tweeted a photo of Chris Buescher, or I guess it was a Ryan Preece car. I think this is from this year. Actually, no, I think it's from last year, but it was a Chris Buescher Louisiana hot sauce car, which actually looks very similar to the car Erik Jones tweeted a picture of, black with orange flames. So this could be a possibility. The future of the 37 car is still a bit unclear at this point. It's unclear whether Ryan Preece is going to get the chance to sign an extension with that team. It sounds like JTG Doherty could be a landing place for a driver like an Erik Jones, perhaps, if one of these other deals doesn't work out. So maybe that's what Erik Jones is hinting at, perhaps. But that seems really, I feel like that'd be a real big brain tease from Erik Jones for people to get that reference, but who knows? Maybe this doesn't necessarily mean Jones is going to go to a specific team, but maybe Erik Jones has at least found a sponsor, and maybe that sponsor is flame related somehow. I think it was Kingsford Grills just signed a deal with Bubba Wallace. Maybe Kingsford is stepping up their game in the NASCAR world once again. I think it was Kingsford. I may be wrong about that. So maybe Jones has a new deal on the horizon with some team, perhaps. And then there's always the possibility that Erik Jones is just putting this out there to generate conversation around his name, much like I am doing right now. I mean, he did tag that as Throwback Thursday. He posted it on a Thursday. He's just, having fun. Look at where I came from. Look at this cool car, maybe just throwing it out there to get some buzz around the name Erik Jones. Perhaps that's all it was. And if that is the case, then okay, success. As the days tick by, I grow less and less confident that Erik Jones is going to land in a competitive Cup Series ride next year, which I do think would be disappointing. I think Erik Jones deserves another shot in a decent Cup Series ride. I'm not saying Joe Gibbs was wrong to replace him with Christopher Bell. I think Christopher Bell is another great driver that deserves a strong opportunity, but I would hate to see Erik Jones's Cup Series future kind of die out this offseason because of how his last couple of years have gone. That would be disappointing to me. I still think Erik Jones has the potential to be a perennial playoff driver and at some point perhaps a championship contender. I truly believe that. I really do. I mean, dude was too good in trucks and Xfinity for me to think he can't drive. But we'll see what happens to Erik Jones. Still a lot of questions as far as his future is concerned, but just thought I'd share that with you guys right there. We covered a lot of bases in today's episode. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. If you missed it earlier this week, the California Clash race replay is still up on my channel if you missed it. Might be working on something similar here in the not so distant future, kind of a sequel of sorts to the California Clash. Stay tuned for more info there. Also, yesterday I got to talk to ARCA Menard Series driver Thad Moffitt, so go check out that interview if you missed it. But that's all I've got for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, continue the conversation on other forms of social media, and of course, a huge thank you to my fantastic Patreon supporters. I could not do this show without their tremendous support. Unless something big happens, I probably won't see you guys again until Sunday night after the Las Vegas Cup Series race, but stay tuned. I'm sure it's gonna be a fun one. The first race of a new round always lends itself to some interesting storylines, some interesting developments, so it should be a decent race, should be a fun one. I will see you guys after Las Vegas Sunday night. Take care, you guys. Have a fantastic weekend.